Now, there's lots happening in foreign affairs, of course, around the world at the moment. First to Russia's war in Ukraine. The US President Donald Trump says a peace deal is close. Here's the latest from Fox News.
A U.S. official says Ukraine has signed on to an American-backed peace plan. But the same can't be said for Russian President Vladimir Putin, who sent 22 missiles and 460 drones into Kyiv overnight, killing at least 7 people. Critics said the initial 28-point plan presented by the U.S. heavily favored Russia. But a U.S. official tells Fox, after some fine-tuning, the Ukrainians are on board, with minor details to be sorted out. Russia reportedly liked the original plan, and it could be hard to convince Putin to accept the Ukrainian negotiated changes. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll met with the Russian delegation in Abu Dhabi Tuesday as U.S. negotiators try to convince their counterparts to end the nearly 4-year war.
Let's go to Peter Jennings, the Director of Strategic Analysis Australia. Good to talk to you again, Peter. If there's one issue where Donald Trump has overpromised and underdelivered, it's on the Ukraine war that he said he was going to settle basically as soon as he got in as president. A lot of claims in the last week that his proposals sell out Ukraine, but there seems to be a bit of optimism. Where does the truth lie on this?
Nobody knows, frankly, at this stage. I think what's happened is that a sort of an ambit claim was put out with that 28-point plan, which clearly gave too many concessions to the Russians. And it seems that what's happened in the last few days is that Ukraine has had the opportunity to react to that and to claw some of those elements back. Chris, I think the things that we should be watching for to see how this plan plays out is, one, how much territory is Ukraine going to be asked to cede to the Russians? And two, what kind of security guarantees will NATO and the United States offer Ukraine in return for losing that territory? I think we will probably get some uncomfortable outcome here, and from my perspective, one that probably gives too much credit, too much advantage to the Russians. But the real test here is, will Ukraine be able to survive to fight another day, to be able to credibly defend itself? I think that's what we need to look for in any final peace plan that gets released publicly.
Let's just have a look at what the President has had to say.
I've also ended 8 wars in 9 months, and we're working on that final war. It's not easy, but I don't know. I think we're going to get there. 25,000 soldiers, Ukraine, Russia. In the last month, 25,000 soldiers have died. So I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out.
Yeah, Peter, given that Ukraine was invaded by Russia, you would think any concessions are too much for Ukraine, but it seems to be accepted that to some degree they're going to have to give up some territory. Has Ukraine accepted that? And if so, why?
I get a sense that President Zelensky is accepting that partly because of exhaustion, partly because Russia is 3 times bigger in terms of population, that this is a war which is not sustainable to be fought for year after year after year, particularly when the US seems to be in two minds about how much support it will provide Ukraine. So yes, there are going to be some very awkward concessions. I think it's also, frankly, very awkward for President Trump to be seen to be being too much of an appeaser towards Vladimir Putin. He can't afford to do that, because this is ultimately a test of American strength and credibility as well. So there's a very difficult balance that has to be sorted out over the next little while. I don't think anyone's going to be particularly happy with the outcome, but it may bring, I'm not going to call it a peace, it may bring a temporary pause to what I think is a broader Russian strategy to intimidate Europe and European democracies. And, you know, that's something that Trump needs to be able to respond to even after we get to a point where some sort of peace plan may be in place.
And when you talk about fears of appeasement, it brings us to Taiwan and the fact that Donald Trump has been speaking to Xi Jinping, that he's going to go to Beijing, or go to China at least, in April next year. Taiwan raised back into the fray thanks to the new Japanese Prime Minister. Are there concerns about Donald Trump here?
Yes, I think there should be concerns because Trump hasn't put his cards on the table. You know, it has been said that for whatever his many flaws, President Joe Biden on 4 occasions said that the United States would come to the defence of Taiwan. Donald Trump hasn't done that. So nor do I think Trump is going to just sell Taiwan out. I think America has too many strategic interests in Taiwan, in its production of high-end computer chips, to allow that to happen. So we'll see what comes of it. And of course, as with everything that Donald Trump does, we won't know until it's actually out there and announced. So, but you know, I'm not surprised that the Taiwanese are particularly concerned at this.
Indeed, he's such a deal maker and he's such a showman. You've got to wait to see what the end deal is before you can really judge it. Thanks for joining us, Peter. I appreciate it. Peter Jennings there from Strategic Analysis Australia.